All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm sorry if I'm going dark here. It's raining, and I just got a notification from someone about this RT video that's out, and I got to talk about this video on 5G, folks, because I'm no stranger to disinformation and controlled opposition. And once again, here we go with the 5G systems that are being rolled out. These 5G systems that are being rolled out, ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that they know darn well what this stuff does, all right? Now, as evidenced by how my notifications are turned off once again today, you'll be able to see just how they don't want you to hear what I'm going to talk about. You see, anytime an issue starts gaining traction, the oldest trick in the book is to muddy the waters, ladies and gentlemen. And that is what's being done right now with the debate and the discussion over 5G. And that is why I'm coming to you right now, even though it's not one of the nights I wanted to talk about this. I have to talk about this issue because the discussion on wireless has been under the control of a group of people like the Environmental Health Trust, run by Deborah Davis, and all these people that are connected to this group, like David Carpenter and Joel Moskowitz, and all of these people that for years have become self-proclaimed leaders against this onslaught of electromagnetic radiation. And anybody who is somebody that wants to get involved in this debate, these people will immediately end up in your circles. And it is not what they say, ladies and gentlemen, it's what they don't say that's the problem. The 5G discussion is a discussion that really needs to go no further than what I read from at the Hermosa Beach City Council meeting last week, when I read verbatim from the declassified CIA document from the Soviet Union from 1977 that is a scientific paper that clearly shows exactly what millimeter waves do to tissue, humans, and animals. And this document also shows what happens when you mix up the current microwave exposures with millimeter wave exposures. Now, if you watch that RT video that's got an all-star cast of controlled opposition and absolute bullshit, you'll notice that the girl that starts out the interview says, "Oh, no big deal, it's just going to kill you." You know, that in and of itself is propaganda right there, because it sets the stage for a comedy act. This is no laughing matter, ladies and gentlemen. But yet, they immediately open up the discussion with nonsensical statements by the host, and then making, small talk out of a major issue. And then this girl comes on, I don't know what her qualifications are, comes out and says, "Oh, no big deal, it'll just kill you." Really? Is that something to joke about, ladies and gentlemen? So they go on to talk about how there's certain people that are experts, and these are people that I believe are part of the controlled opposition. They're all people that have controlled the narrative for years on fighting the Wi-Fi in schools, and actually, excuse me, the Moskowitzes and the people like Deborah Davis of the Environmental Health Trust are actually working to legalize and to enable the Wi-Fi to remain in the schools. That's right. They will never expose how Wi-Fi in schools is a sterilization agenda. I have proven it. Go to WiFiDangers.com and look at the proof. Look at the article. Look at the pictures. Look at the studies. But you see, the Environmental Health Trust is in the business of helping legislation get written to make sure that wireless never comes out of the schools. They're in the business of minimizing instead of banning this technology. They're in the business of making sure that it remains legal instead of making it illegal. But that's how controlled opposition works. Now, can you tell how they're censoring me now? Look at the subscribers. You're not getting notified, right, folks? That's okay. This will get out. Whether they like it or not, it's going to get out. So in this RT video that's supposedly talking about all of these dangers, all right, there's a gentleman that comes on by the name of David Carpenter, and he's also connected at the hip to this cabal that has taken a front and center position on controlling the discussion against all of these threats we face. And he goes out and says on record in this video that they don't know about the effects of this stuff. Now, this man is a liar, because they've known about the effects of millimeter waves since the 70s, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps even sooner than that, perhaps even earlier. All you have to do is go to 5gdangers.com and you can read the document for yourself, the declassified document from the CIA, from the Soviet Union that conducted the studies on millimeter waves back in the 70s, which are the frequency bands that are going to be used in 5G. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The biological effects of millimeter waves on humans and cells and tissue and animals has been known for 41 years, going on 42 years. And David Carpenter, who's supposedly a public health researcher, goes on record on this RT video as controlled opposition, stating that they don't know what the effects of this technology are going to be. They've known about these effects for decades. Why do you think they've been working on honing it and deploying it and perfecting it? Now, for those of you who are hearing this background noise, those are my windshield wipers. It's finally raining here. Look, folks, 5G is a surveillance black body grid for the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, the all-knowing desire of Lucifer, so they can track and trace everything we say and do. And at the same time, it is a kill grid that is going to mimic biological emergencies that they're going to blame on pathogenic exposures, when in fact they're going to be electromagnetically induced. I'm hoping that as I continue to beat this drum, as I exposed what happened in these two schools in the United States, they blamed on a mystery illness when in fact it was WIKIJOE and millimeter waves that were installed in these schools that created these neurological impairments and mystery illnesses. We know what happens when 60 gigahertz emissions are ramped up to a power level strong enough and a modulation rate perfect enough to mess with the oxygen molecules. And by the way, there are some videos of me speaking at a city council meeting floating around out there that have been edited, where I go into what the millimeter waves do to the oxygen molecules. They purposely cut out the following statement, and I've gone on record once again at the Hermosa Beach City Council meeting. You can click on my page, my Fullerton Informer YouTube page, and see the video I just did on 5G. It's about a week ago. Millimeter waves at 60 gigahertz broadcast frequency are going to be the basis for the new home and indoor Wi-Fi called WIKIJOE, and 60 gigahertz is the absorption spectrum of diatomic oxygen molecules. And what happens when diatomic oxygen molecules are bombarded with 60 gigahertz radio frequency signals is the orbital spin properties of the valence electrons are altered in the diatomic oxygen, which renders the diatomic oxygen almost unbindable to the body's hemoglobin. Now, in addition, sub 60 gigahertz millimeter waves affect the magnetic properties of the hemoglobin molecules themselves. So what we have is a perfect weapon aimed at the oxygen molecules, 60 gigahertz, to alter the orbital spin properties of the valence electrons of the oxygen in the air. And then we have millimeter waves below the 60 gigahertz frequency range, still millimeter waves nonetheless, that actually affect the hemoglobin in our blood. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a binary weapon. Now, you will never hear Moskowitz or Deborah Davis or Peter Sullivan or Tony Stein or Lois Slesson or any of these people with these groups that are supposedly fighting this stuff. They won't talk about what I've just talked about. As a matter of fact, they will keep your eyes off the ball and on other things, like worrying about how this is an inescapable matrix and that there's nothing we can do. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. There's plenty we can do. All right? Number one, like I've said, because this stuff... Oh, and by the way, these are the same people that are connected to this space appeal thing, where they supposedly... And this is the most hilarious thing of all. All right? This is the most hilarious thing of all, ladies and gentlemen. They're telling us that we have to have these antennas all over the place down here, right in front of our houses, 100 feet apart, because these millimeter waves don't propagate well because of all kinds of issues with the atmosphere and the terrain, obstructions, atmospheric gases, water vapor, oxygen, carbon dioxide. There's all these problems with these millimeter waves traveling because they get knocked down by everything. And so they've got to put these transmitters every 100 to 200 feet on the ground. And yet they expect us to believe, as if we're complete idiots or something, that these non-existent, phony, fake satellites can transmit 5G from space when they can't even get it to go 200 feet on the ground. How are you supposed to get it through all the levels of the atmosphere and all the atmospheric components? Pollutants, moisture, oxygen, nitrogen. I mean, come on, folks. Once again, it's the same cast of characters in the controlled opposition getting us afraid of a boogeyman from space, when in fact this crap can't even go more than 300 feet on the ground. So there you have that, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, the proof that 5G is harmful is available. Go to 5gdangers.com. All of these mainstream news, and even RT is a mainstream news organization, folks. It is heavily compromised. The information they put out is total disinformation in this case. And the way it's presented is, in my opinion, very immoral. This is a very serious problem. This technology is being forced on people. These weapon systems are being deployed outside of people's bedroom windows, and people are going to be conned into bringing this weaponry into their house. They have deployed this weaponry in several schools in the United States for a short period of time, and the results were disastrous. People were collapsing, they were getting paralyzed, they were passing out, they were having all kinds of neurological impairment. We know what this stuff does. We know what millimeter waves do. Go to 5gdangers.com and you can look at the document, folks. You can look at the document. You can download it for yourself. It's on the FullertonInformer.com, and it's under 5gdangers.com on a search engine. Click it, open it, and look at the video I did just the other day where I actually explained what happens when millimeter waves interact with oxygen molecules. And once again, For those of you who may have seen the video that's floating around on Facebook, it's been edited. They took out the most important part, where I explain what the millimeter waves do. Now, when I was in elementary school back in the 70s, fiber optics were around back then. I mean, they were a miraculous way to make sure that I could contact my relatives in Massachusetts on Christmas morning when everybody was calling, because they had fiber optic cables that carried the signals for the long distance phone companies, folks. They had these technologies back then. We have fiber optic cable to every classroom wall in the United States. Why do they have to have wireless as the last end connection? Well, that's because the manifesto of Project Inkwell demands wireless connectivity at the very end, because the wireless situation in the schools is an intentional sterilization and destruction of human health on the children, folks. It's no accident. No one in the controlled opposition movement of any of those people I mentioned will ever talk about how human eggs are the target of the current microwave deployment in the schools. Oh yes, they'll talk about the sperm, and even Dr. Oz himself will have a guest on. You watch his show where he had a young couple on, and the discussion was about cell phones and not to keep them in your pocket. And the discussion centered around the man keeping his phone in his pocket because of its effect on the sperm. And with a twinkle in his eye and a gleam in his eye, he purposely and intentionally made no reference to the effects of microwave emissions on the human egg. So he left the entire situation of the plight of all young women wide open and vulnerable by focusing the attention on the male sperm, which gets reproduced every single night, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas girls are born with a finite number of eggs, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm in the middle of a massive, massive downpour. It is raining cats and dogs in California right now. And I'm driving in my car, and I am live streaming with current GSM 4G LTE technology that is perfectly fine. There's no buffering. That's right. We don't need 5G, folks. They need 5G. And the reason there's a lot of trolls in here tonight is because they're worried about what I'm talking about. And they should be, because the truth is getting out. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we're going to keep this stream brief. I just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of controlled opposition, and the layers of this onion go very deep, all the way down to the core of people you trust when you can't. It's unbelievable how much disinformation is out there. Now, just to give you an idea, if they want to run, this is hilarious, by the way, if you wanted to put 3,000 pounds into the stratosphere, you would need a balloon that has the surface area of about 40 acres to lift it up there and hold it there. Now, 3,000 pounds is about the weight of a laser that could burn a hole in the hood of a car from a mile away. So here, let's go into this other discussion about how people like Deborah Tavares is trying to freak everybody out about how they're going to get us from space and light our houses on fire. All right, so do the math on this, folks. If it takes a balloon with the surface area of 40 acres to lift 3,000 pounds into the stratosphere, and it takes 3,000 pounds worth of a laser to generate enough power to burn a hole in the hood of a car, do the math and extrapolate it at 16,000 feet. How much weight would the laser have to weigh to transmit 16,000 feet? And how big would that balloon surface area have to be to hold that laser up there? Because there's no way some satellite is going to be able to have that kind of power. You see, all this stuff is a bunch of nonsense, folks. It's all fear-mongering to freak you out. They want you to think the weapons are up in the sky when the weapons are going to be on the light pole in your backyard. They don't want you to know that the weapon's going to be brought into your house by your purchase at Best Buy or Costco or Walmart when the new WIKIJOE comes out, and they're going to have you bring the weapon into your house. And in the meantime, people like HumanityTHE are going to have you fearing the weaponry from the imaginary weapons in the sky, so your eye is off the ball on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving you some truth. This controlled opposition goes deep, folks. It goes way down the rabbit hole, and you got to start thinking logically, okay? You know, Joe Imbriano is not a really intelligent guy. I'm just a really common sense guy, and you know, for lack of a better term, I guess you could say I'm just your average Joe, because I really am. I'm nothing special, folks. And all I do is open my eyes and think logically. And I start questioning things. And you should question everything and everybody. All right? That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. You got to use your noggin. Do you really think they've got these things floating around? And first of all, that's the whole thing about why the globe Earth is such a deception. Because if they can get you to believe that we're on some spinning ball flying through space, and that the Bible is wrong, and the Bible is terribly mistaken about the geocentrism model of the universe, and the shape of the Earth being a flat disc with a dome over the top of it, because that's what the Bible says, then the Bible is wrong about who God is, who Jesus Christ is, and where we go when we die. And so that's the trick they use to make everybody afraid and question eternal life and your solid salvation and guaranteed salvation in Jesus Christ. So if they can get you scared and confused with the globe Earth, which is a weapon, a psychological weapon, then they can then proceed to scare the living crap out of you with all these fake inventions that supposedly exist. They can't get you from space, folks. They're trying to get us from the ground, and that's what I'm trying to stop. And that's why I go to these meetings and I talk about what this stuff does, and I try to convince these elected bodies not to weaponize their infrastructure. But at the same time, I'm also pointing out to all of you that the weapons are within arm's reach, ladies and gentlemen. They're not at 65,000 feet. They're not at 65 miles up in the sky like HumanityTHE would have you have nightmares about. Open your eyes to the game they're playing, folks. They want you curled up in a ball, hiding under a desk, thinking that the world's coming to an end, that you can't do anything about anything, that you're powerless, that you're helpless, when in fact, we are so powerful, it is unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. How much power we have is absolutely amazing, and that is why they are so deathly afraid of us, ladies and gentlemen. They are petrified of our power. They are petrified of our numbers. They are petrified of our ability, ladies and gentlemen. They are petrified. They are totally petrified of our collective power, and they are petrified of the power of our collective prayer in Jesus Christ, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, to stop this evil. And they are going to such great lengths to deceive us and to make us afraid and to make us think that there is no solution. Nothing could be further from the truth. I sit here and analyze the propaganda, and it's really Bush League propaganda they're putting out, folks. It is unbelievable how stupid they think we are. And the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot continue to let these people insult our intelligence. There is no way. Everything that we're being taught is theoretical in school. All of this math in school, all of these physics, and all of these supposed things that they teach us as gospel facts are all theoretical equations. There's nothing floating around up there that's going to burn your house down, folks. Everything's on the ground. If you want to protect your house, get that propane propellant refrigerator, the refrigerant that's made out of propane and flammable gas. Get that air conditioner out of your house, that refrigerator and freezer out of your house, and get rid of your smart meter, and they won't be able to ignite it. All right? If you're worried about being harmed by 5G, it's not going to come from space, folks. I mean, the stupid thing can't even go through your walls. It can't even go through a row of trees, ladies and gentlemen. And they want you to think they're going to get you from space with this stuff? Are you kidding me? It's impossible for millimeter waves to travel from space into your backyard. Why? Because of air, carbon dioxide, water vapor, clouds, dust, soot, smoke, dirt, pollen, trees, buildings. I mean, come on. There's no way. I need you to pray for my protection, because I'm telling you the truth, and they're trying to outnumber the truth tellers by the liars and the deceivers. And I've mentioned a group of people that is strung together like a fishing net over the southern Pacific tuna grounds, folks, trying to reel everybody in and get you by the neck and get you to believe the nonsense. I clearly explained only what I've read from the magnetobiology textbooks and from the scientific studies that are readily available to anyone who dares and tries to find them about what millimeter waves can do. And yet we have these scientists that are part of this EMF safety appeal from space, and part of the Environmental Health Trust, and all these other people that are making claims that we don't know what millimeter waves do, that it's some sort of an experiment. We know what millimeter waves do. It is not an experiment, ladies and gentlemen. It is a direct criminal assault on people. We need to get our vernacular in order and not let these controlled opposition agents control the discussion. And that's what they do, ladies and gentlemen. They are experts at propaganda and controlling the discussion. And that is why we need to control the discussion, ladies and gentlemen. That's correct. We need to control this discussion. We need to choose our words carefully. 5G is not an experiment, it is an assault. And we make that statement because the science exists. The scientific studies are in existence. You can go to 5gdangers.com and download that 100-page PDF and read it for yourself. This is not conjecture. This is not wild-eyed conspiracy theory, folks. This is science that is over 42 years old. All right, that's enough. I don't like going too long on these, but I felt a sense of urgency to combat this high-level propaganda coming from all angles. And you know what? I don't appreciate anything on that RT video one bit. I think it's an insult to all of our intelligence, and it's downplaying the reality of what we face by trying to turn it into a comedy show. And in second place, it's full of factual errors and intentional misrepresentations of the facts and the reality, ladies and gentlemen. And you need to know who these players are. You study who these people are, and you look at them, and you familiarize yourselves with who they are, and remember their names, ladies and gentlemen, because they're not hiding what they're up to. They're trying to tell you we've got nothing to work with, when in fact we've got the truth on our side. And once again, in the name of Jesus Christ, I come to all of you asking for prayers for all of us, and all of you out there. We're all in this together, and just remember, the power that we have is incredible, and they're deathly afraid of it, and that's why they're trying so hard to make us afraid. Fear is their greatest weapon, and guess what? It is their greatest weakness, ladies and gentlemen. God bless all of you in the name of Jesus Christ. Remember, this is Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the wet streets of Fullerton, California. P.O. Box 4121, Fullerton, California, 92834. on the web at WiFiDangers.com, 5GDangers.com, Disney666.com, Apple666.org, CERN666.com, CellTowerDangers.com. I've got some other ones. I guess they'll come to me eventually, but just keep it in mind, folks. Drop me a letter, send me something to encourage me, and may you keep myself and my family in your prayers.